An Empire of Ice and Fire by Longclaw 1-6. Chapter 65. March to Highgarden. Archers, with me! Sir Adam Marbrand fought to regain his saddle, mount neighing from pain from an arrow that grazed its rump. His squire was down, arrow piercing his chest. Pink froth caked his lips, taking in short gasping breaths as if he were retching. There would be no doubt he would soon die.
"You hurt, my lord?"
Adam turned to find Sir Flement Brax riding up to him, sweat and blood staining his hair. It didn't seem to be his. Adam shook his head. "Knock!" he screamed at the archers, dismounted Westerland's riders noted for their skill in firing while on the move. "Loose!" The thwang of nearly 4 dozen bows filled the air as the dragon bitch's army would taste their own medicine.
"What is it?"
Brax was an eager warrior, despising the Starks for the death of his older brother during the War of the Four Kings. But now Adam was preoccupied with a battle that should not be taking place.
"We're moving more men to the bridge. Last of our reserves,"
Brax informed him.
"Young Wolf is demonstrating in front of us, reinforcing the Manderleys with Glover men."
Cursing, Adam took a swig of his canteen, filled with sour wine. It was dry. Impossibly dry. Dust and chaff blown everywhere by the wind. He looked back towards the stony sept. Men-at-arms were rushing towards the bridge over Blackwater Rush. It was one of solid foundation, stone dating back since before the Blackfire rebellions. Just 10 minutes more, and the Starks would have taken it. But a fast rush from the castle that broke dozens of mounts had seen the Lannisters get to it first. They'd driven off the Manderleys, but with the loss of nearly a quarter of their number. Men that couldn't be replaced. It had just been 3 nights ago that the Raven came from King's Landing about the Dothraki incursions to the north of near Harrenhal. The massive forces of the Targaryens were gathering there. That this section of the line was merely a backwater to nourish the new crop of cavalry soldiers. But then all hells broke loose. This wasn't some raiding or scouting force. This wasn't just some lone detachment of troops. Nope. This was the Whispering Wood all over again. Robb Stark at the lead of a column of crack northern bannermen. Behind him, likely the entire Targaryen army. There was no choice. Marbrand would have to hold here while word was sent back. Perhaps then Kevan Lannister could retake this vital bridge and the stony sept before the dragon bitch moved more men south.
"My lord, they're coming!"
Sure enough, the banners of houses Stark, Manderley and Glover were bearing down on the bridge. Crossbowmen at the front, they formed a tight wall of shields and spears, enough to smash through the dismounted light cavalry of his force. Undaunted, he grabbed a young lad.
"Get this dispatch to Kevan Lannister at Hayfield Castle."
The letter had the quick scrawl of the enemy positions, exactly what Robb Stark had brought up and where Marbrand thought he was going.
"Avoid the roads. Don't stop. Steal them out if you have to switch. Understood?"
The lad nodded, mounted his horse, and galloped off. More shouting ran out.
"The Young Wolf is extending the line to the east,"
Brax said, his voice trembling.
"He has the Dothraki with them."
1,000 Dothraki screamers had poured over a ford in Blackwater Rush, unseen by the Lannister scouts too preoccupied with the probing assaults by the northern bannermen. What few light cavalry were in reserve were swept aside by the charging horde, steel cutting through leather armour of unprepared forces. Bannermen filled to the brim with anger at various atrocities against their lands and countrymen by House Lannister. They assaulted the bridge with ferocity. Crossbows and swords did their best, but when the bridge refused to break, Lord Glover ordered his 5 cannon into action. The cannon shells struck 1 in a million shot, inaccurate to the point of prayers being said of hitting within a 4-yard range. The massive device impacted directly onto a supply wagon. The projectile turned the wooden vehicle into kindling, broke and shattered shards of hardy oak flying through the air, many directly into the Lannister command post. Men tumbled from their mounts, blood and flesh spraying everywhere as the wooden shrapnel sliced through people like the sharpest Valyrian steel. Hoofbeats drummed around the former command post, Dothraki screamers combing through the wreckage for anything worth looting as the rest of them charged towards the rest of the cavalry. Dismounting with ease, they kicked bodies or parts of bodies over, blades going for the throat of those still breathing, but likely to die. What use were they as prisoners? One of them was Adam Marbrand. A foot-long shard had punctured straight through his lungs, blood oozing out.
"We have to hold,"
Adam said, voice weak and faint. He struggled to open his eyes, body numb, and any movement feeling as if he were drowning in quicksand.
"Rest easy."
The sound was new, tone calm and comforting.
"You fought admirably. A true warrior."
Lord Marbrand recognised the voice, that of an old foe. One to respect, but one thought defeated only to rise again.
"Robb Stark, is that you?"
"Aye, Lord Marbrand, it is."
Sighing, the last thought in Adam Marbrand's mind was a prayer to the Seven to protect his young son from the pain of war. Watching as a final breath passed the lips of the loyal Lord of the Westerlands, Robb Stark pushed off the ground where he was kneeling. Another noble house finding its members nearly wiped out. Another legacy destroyed by this terrible war. By Joffrey's hubristic madness. Gods, grant us the strength to finish it here, in this campaign. He silently prayed.
"Lord Stark!"
Looking up, Robb saw Lord Glover trotting up to him.
"We took the bridge.
Captured most of their forces too. Having the Dothraki slam into their rear took the fight right out of them."
"How many battalions did not engage the enemy?"
he asked.
"About 5, my lord."
"The rest are at various stages of understrength. It'll take some time to reform them." Robb shook his head in frustration.
"Too little damn time. Far too little damn time. Get them moving, Lord Glover."
He glared at the Dothraki blood rider who had escorted him across the ford in the battle in the Blackwater, who spoke some common tongue.
"And form up your men for the advanced screen. We have no time to loot and rape."
The glance was sent to the body of Lord Marbrand.
"And find some men to bury him with honour."
Robb hoped the opposite side would do the same for him. Pulling back the flap of his tent, Jaime found Bronn sitting in a camp chair. He fiddled with one of his knives, muddy boots perched upon the table. "So, what happened at the War Council?" asked the former sellsword. Jaime sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose.
"Message came in from Lord Marbrand at Stony Sept.
Said Robb Stark was attacking with the near entirety of House Glover and House Manderley. Marbrand thinks he's at the head of a large column of men, trying to sneak around us and capture Harrenhal. Do you believe the poor fucker?" Seemed earnest enough. But Father and Randall Tarley feel that the troop movements to our north necessitate that the Dragon Queen is preparing a full assault south. No one feared Daenerys Targaryen as a military mind. Conqueror, yes, but strategic and tactical thinking wasn't one to write home about. For the man that composed the reigns of Castamere and made Dawn Howell, the true worry was the Emperor Jon Snow. But with Jon Snow, a weakling under the control of an angry wife, Tywin felt the only logical advance was to hunker down and beat back the inevitable frontal assault on the capital. Only it wasn't going that way at all. No one seemed to see it, too blinded by Jon Snow's indecision at the Dragon Pit. "Army isn't moving out, is it?" Bronn saw it too. Jaime shook his head, going directly for the wine. "He's sending Uncle Kevin down the Gold Road as a precaution, but is keeping most of us here." He knocked back the flagon by himself, not caring to pour himself a glass. Perhaps stirring is the right idea. Spending the day drunk off one's ass sounded so appealing. "I've been skirmishing with the scouting parties the Imperials have been sending ahead of their main forces. Nothing but Vale Knights of House Royce and or Dothraki. No other units. Which doesn't sit right with me. The fuckers are getting it all off our flank and no one has the fucking brains to see it." Bronn had quite a lot of tolerance for things. Tolerance for stupidity wasn't one of them. Not stopping until he had drained half the flagon, Jaime took in a breath and steadied himself on one of the tent poles.
"People have brains.
The question is whether or not fighting for this cause is worth it." Bronn's eyes went wide, head jerking up to look at Jaime in shock. Was the Lannister saying what he thought he was saying? Was it shocking that he really didn't give a shit? It had bothered Jamie a lot in recent weeks. Whether to betray his son, or if the man that had killed his king to save hundreds of thousands of lives had any choice in the matter. But it felt to Jamie as if history repeated itself, and that to save what he had left, he had to let the dice fly high. I will ask you to do something, Bronn. Something that will put you in grave danger, yet also put you in a position to do you great harm. If you wish to decline, leave right now, and we shall never speak of it. The former sellsword snorted. I ain't left you yet, Lannister. He stood, sheathing his knife. I didn't much like King's Landing anyway. Line break. Lord Stark, it's the Emperor. Sprawling out over a long chair, so tired the night before that he hadn't even managed to take off his cuirass and boots, Robb found a horse blanket draped over him. One of his soldiers must have done it.
How long have I been asleep?
He asked the man, blinking away the fatigue. He found it to be Darren Hornwood, his aide. 4 hours, my lord. The young Hornwood replied, suppressing a grin, badly. You've been riding all the last 2 days, so we figured you needed it.
You shouldn't have done that.
My lord, you needed it. Embarrassed, he pushed the blanket off and bolted upright just as his brother walked in. He bowed sloppily.
Sire.
Get up, jackass, Jon replied, wrapping his arms around Robb in a brotherly hug. I see the forces are proceeding across the intact bridge. Good job in keeping it intact, brother. Robb smiled faintly at the praise. Despite it all, his prowess in battlefield tactics still retained the sharp edge of the Riverlands campaigns in repelling Tywin and Jaime Lannister at the start of the War of the Five Kings. Not that it was enough to save his father.
You were the one to give the order, brother.
Stop being modest and accept your Emperor's praise, Jon replied, smacking him on the back.
And don't fret about the sleep. You deserved it.
Truth be told, the fatigue was still bothering him, along with unanswered questions.
Brother, you still haven't told anyone about what happened at the Dragon Pit. Such widely different personalities. It isn't the sign of a stable mind.
Jon wrapped an arm around his brother, chuckling. We're holding a meeting in the Ladies' Solar. You'll get your answers. Nodding, Robb let his brother escort him out. He was apprehensive for the revelations. It was a small war council. Jon, Robb, Daenerys, Barristan Selmy and Grey Worm, along with Catelyn and Tyrion of the civilian leadership.
I received a report from Riverrun, Robb stated. The last of Lord Tully's battalions have departed. All that are left are Quano Dothraki and Lord Royce, demonstrating in front of Tyrion's best. It doesn't look like he's moving yet.
Tywin won't move. All eyes moved to Catelyn. He thinks Her Highness is angered and would want to give fire and blood to the capital, not flank around to capture Highgarden. He'll stay until the magnitude of what we have done shows itself.
Good, Grey Worm remarked. I thought it is due.
He pondered what word to be used.
Stretched out along countryside. Weak to attack.
The Unsullied had just left the road to Harrenhal behind the main Dothraki force and 10,000 auxiliaries.
With the snow melt, the only means of attack to cut our advance is in the middle is the Gold Road.
Barristan pointed to the scrawls of troop concentrations near the capital.
Govern Lannister. He has about 15,000 men. Westerlands regulars and sellswords. Not the best, but enough to cut us off until Tywin can reinforce them.
Jon stroked his chin, contemplating.
If we hold at this collection of farming hamlets where the Blackwater Rush meets the Gold Road, would a force about half that side hold? It should, and would get reinforcement from other units and commands moving south. Could catch Cavan in an envelopment if the defending force doesn't buckle. Robb.
The Emperor turned to the Warden of the North.
Your forces have been resting since taking Stony Sept. How many are fit for combat duty? Around 7,000, Your Majesty.
They have Balerion and myself, Daenerys stated, tone one not to take no for an answer.
I can supplant them with 2,000 men
in a division of auxiliary currently crossing the bridge, sire. Tyrion interjected. Jon was grateful. 9,000 elite men could hold back Kevan Lannister from prepared positions. Couple that with a dragon. He didn't want his beloved to risk herself. But if he was Aegon, she was most definitely Visenya. And for the final matter of business. There was silence. To tell you the truth, we had a few questions about that. Tyrion grabbed at the pitcher of watered wine on the table. I happen to hope that I was drunk for the most of the last few weeks. Rather than see my ruler basically shift between a conqueror rivaling Aegon into a scared boy wish-casting for peace. But I wasn't, so please let me know. He poured himself a sizable helping, sharing a look with Catelyn. Jon smiled softly.
Everyone told me how my father's honour was both highly and lowly regarded by my enemies. How Joffrey, and frankly his cable, relished how they fooled him, simply using the fact that he trusted people at their word.
He looked at Dany, whose eyes had narrowed.
My victory in Essos notwithstanding. If they believed the commander of the Imperial Army was weak as his father was, and only goaded into battle by his wife, only to be overconfident in attacking someone whose heart wasn't in the war.
Out of nowhere, Tyrion began cracking up, deep guffaws causing the wine to clatter to the floor.
Brilliant! I only wish I could see my father's face.
He couldn't continue, laughing to the point of tears. Soon all had joined in at the revelation of their emperor's strategic mind, except for the empress. Catching the unreadable look from his wife, Jon snapped into attention.
I wish to confer with the empress. Dismiss to your positions.
Two smiles from the other lords and an inebriated laugh from Tyrion, he watched them all leave. Finally, alone with his wife. Eyes boring into him, Daenerys' expression was blank at Jon's confession. Her silence grated on him. Normally stoic and unflappable, the white dragon wolf found himself crumbling under his wife's gaze. Suddenly, his still clean-shaven cheek was knocked to the side, reddening handprint forming from her palm contacting with it. And just as suddenly after that, Jon found his head pulled down and Dany's lips colliding with his. The kiss lasted nearly half a minute, hungry and passionate. Daenerys plundered her husband's mouth with all the pent-up emotion of the last few weeks. Breathing deeply, the two broke apart, staring into each other's eyes.
Dany.
Jon! Brimming with both anger in his deception and pure pride at his masterful strategic brilliance in the situation, Dany had to let it both out.
You are brilliant!
He chuckled softly, kissing the top of her head.
I'm sorry, my love. I wanted to tell you.
You should have. She nuzzled his chest. I would have played along.
Your reactions needed to be genuine. I was worried that Tywin or Baelish would see right through you. They expected me to be Ned Stark, to copy my father's honourable nature. They would trust my naivete as genuine. To their undoing.
He allowed himself a dark grin. Daenerys grinned as well, hugging him closer. Her mouth opened to tell him another fact that she had just found out, something that would bring him joy, but held off. Not now. Not when he was stressed with the attack as it was. Her hand drifted to her stomach. Soon. Line break. Mace Smith, named by his father for the late Lord of Highgarden, swatted away the flies from his ear. A wagon driver in service to the crown, ever since the former dominion of House Tyrell had been turned into yet another personal dominion of the Baratheon king, following the Tyrell alliance with King Renly. The vehicle was loaded to the brim with 30-pound sacks of grain destined for the starving mouths in King's Landing. Well, only a few of them, the rest going into the side dishes of the favoured nobility. The job paid enough to feed his belly. And he despised it. The money was barely enough to make the fact working for the decrepit Baratheons and Lannisters anything less than disgusting. Those two houses had destroyed House Tyrell, robbing it of whatever hope it had. Only the seven knew where the beautiful Marjorie wasn't in the icy grave in the north. Rumours flew about of seismic defeats to the north. Tywin dead. King's Landing burning at the hands of dragons. Dothraki hordes looting and raping the countryside. Flicking the reins attached to the mules, Mace had enough.
Fuck this shit!
What's up? One of his friends asked, driving a different wagon.
Orders, we're heading out of here. Dothraki are coming.
It spread like wildfire. Where in the seven hells are you going? The demand/question was always the same, nearly always in confusion rather than anger. And the answer never faltered.
Idiot kings hold up in the army in the capital. Fucking Dothraki are coming straight for us.
And with that, the panic began. Any chance to rescue the grain stores in Highgarden before the Imperial army arrived was lost. End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that because I did. Good chapter that. I like that reveal of his honour basically being used as a smokescreen. Okay, that is really, really, really smart. I'm impressed. You can see why the last chapter was called Napoleon of Westeros, because that confused me for a minute there. And one thing, actually two things. Rob with his honour with Lord Marbrand, even though they're old enemies. The fact that they respect each other, that's really nice. I like that. And Jaime and Bronn basically going, fuck this shit, I'm out. Along with this Mace Smith. Everyone's just like, fuck Joffrey, I'm out of here. And I'm loving it, I'm loving it. I don't normally swear this much in real life, but, you know, it's good to get the venting out, let me tell you. This is really good therapy for when I'm angry or stressed. Anyway, you guys know the drill. Like, comment, and subscribe. Check out my other videos, and make sure to have a good day, night, or whatever time zone you're in. Bye, my guys, girls, and non-bino pals. I'll see you in another video. Bye!